There's a reason the name Yahweh triggers fear, obedience, and absolute authority. Not reflection, not inner awakening, obedience. In the oldest biblical texts, Yahweh doesn't ask to be understood. He demands to be followed. But centuries later, Jesus speaks of a Father who must be seen, known, and experienced. That shift is not small. It may be the most overlooked transformation in religious history. In the Hebrew Scriptures, Yahweh establishes law, identity, and order. He gives commandments carved in stone. He chooses one nation. He defines blessing and punishment. He warns against disobedience. The relationship is structured around covenant and compliance. Power flows downward. Holiness is distance. God is ruler, judge, king. But when Jesus speaks, the atmosphere changes. He talks about rebirth, inner light, and the kingdom within. He tells people to become like children. He heals without demanding ritual payment. He forgives without temple sacrifice. And instead of constantly saying Yahweh, he says something else, the Father. Not a tribal deity, not a national protector, not a lawgiver on a mountain, a Father who makes the sun rise on the evil and the good. Matthew 5:45. That doesn't sound like a God of territory. That sounds like a source beyond division. Here's something most people miss. In John 1:18 it says, "No one has ever seen God." But the Hebrew Scriptures are full of people claiming encounters with Yahweh. So what is John implying? Either the text contradicts itself, or Jesus is pointing beyond earlier understandings of God. Later, in John 5:37, Jesus tells religious leaders, "You have never heard his voice, nor seen his form." He's saying this to experts of Yahweh's law. That's not random. That's a distinction. Jesus is not rejecting their scriptures. He's saying they mistook the messenger for the source. Some early mystical Christians took this tension seriously. They taught that the creator of the physical world was real, powerful, and intelligent, but not the ultimate divine source. They called this being the demiurge, the cosmic architect. In their view, this being corresponds to the law-giving, order-enforcing deity of the Old Testament. Not evil in a cartoon sense, but limited. A ruler of structure and matter, unaware of the higher, boundless spiritual source beyond itself. And when Jesus appears, he doesn't come to reinforce the system. He comes to reveal what exists beyond it, not a new religion, a higher perception. Yahweh's relationship with humanity is built on commandments. Jesus' relationship with humanity is built on consciousness. Yahweh says, "Obey and live." Jesus says, "Know, and you will be free." John 8:32. Yahweh establishes external law. Jesus speaks of internal transformation. Yahweh forms a chosen people. Jesus says, "My kingdom is not of this world." John 18:36. That statement alone breaks political religion. He's not claiming territory. He's describing a state of awareness. Why this interpretation was dangerous if Jesus is revealing a God beyond fear, beyond tribal identity, beyond law, then religious control loses its foundation, because fear motivates obedience, but love awakens freedom. If God is encountered internally, priests lose monopoly. If truth is realized through awareness, institutions lose authority. If divinity is present within, guilt loses its leverage. That shift changes everything. So the message had to be reframed. Salvation became legal forgiveness instead of awakening. The Father became distant again. Jesus became a sacrifice instead of a revealer. And the radical difference between Yahweh and the Father blurred. This perspective doesn't say ancient people were foolish. It suggests spiritual understanding unfolds in stages. Early humanity understood the divine through survival, hierarchy, and order. God looked like a ruler. As consciousness matured, the image evolved. God became presence instead of power, immanence instead of authority, awareness instead of command. Jesus represents that turning point, and not abolishing the past, but revealing what it was pointing toward. So the issue isn't, was Yahweh fake? The deeper question is, was that the final understanding of God, or an early stage of humanity's perception of the divine? Because if God is infinite, then no single image can contain the whole. And spiritual growth means outgrowing earlier images without hatred, just deeper awareness. Jesus didn't come to strengthen fear. He came to dissolve it. He didn't build a system of obedience. He ignited a path of awakening, from outer authority to inner realization, from law written on stone to awareness written in consciousness. And once you see that shift, you can't unsee it, because the journey was never about choosing between gods. It was about moving beyond fear into direct experience of the living source within. And that kind of awakening has always been the most dangerous idea of all.